Hi guys, did Richard Holden, Tory MP, just threaten Kay Burley and Sky News over their reporting of the Israel-Gaza conflict? In a pretty shocking comment, the Conservative reminded the reporter that Rishi Sunak isn't his Prime Minister, but hers also. Now this follows reports that a hospital may have been hit by an airstrike. Buildings such as these are supposed to be exempt, but the further this conflict escalates, the more difficult it becomes for governments like the UK and to a lesser extent the US to defend the actions of their ally Israel. But have a listen to what Richard had to say.
14,000 people, we're told, by medical officials are sheltering in place at the Al-Quds hospital. Reuters saying medical officials claiming yesterday that airstrikes are very near to those major hospitals. Is that something that the British government condones?
I think the truth is Israel has to be able to defend itself. We know from Hamas...
Is that a yes?
We know from Hamas... I mean, on every... You can't expect the government to comment on every single individual...
I'm asking you about 14,000 people sheltering in place
and
in
we're not...
hospitals.
And just...
Do you condone that?
And let me...
When it's not targeted, but just several metres away.
I can't comment on every single individual strike that the Israelis make. I think that would just be...
Even if it's against the Geneva Convention?
Well, Well, let's just see whether or not it is. What we know is that...
Is it something that you'd be looking into?
Let me finish, Kay. What we know is that actually Hamas deliberately hides among civilian populations. It digs tunnels right through residential areas where it hides its fighters, arms and munitions. It deliberately does that. And we saw recently when they were launching literally those missiles from a graveyard next to a hospital.
Reportedly.
And then they hit the... Well, that's what UK intelligence sources say.
Likely, they said. They didn't say definitely. They said likely.
Indeed, that is true. But they were launching these missiles from nearby. And, as you say, they likely hit their own hospital.
I don't say it. Your Prime Minister says it.
Is our Prime Minister, I think, Kay, and the Prime Minister under which runs the government in which Sky News operates under in a free and fair way in the UK through Ofcom codes, etc.
Wow, okay. Our Prime Minister, and then he goes on to say how Sky News operates under the regulator. Wow. Not my Prime Minister. Well, I wish Kay Burley had responded by saying, I didn't vote for him. Yeah. Well, that interview went in a very strange direction, didn't it? Our Prime Minister. Rishi Sunak was not elected to be... Okay, anyway. I really wish journalists would ask politicians like this guy or Rishi Sunak himself, do we have influence over Israel? That would be a very interesting question, because if they were to say, yes, we do, then please explain what influence the UK government or the US or other countries around the world have over Israel. Because what they tend to say is, well, when they're responding to things like this, they say, well, what about Hamas? Why doesn't Hamas do X, Y, and Z? But we in the West have no influence over Hamas. We should, we believe, have influence over Israel. So we should be able to speak to Israel and ask them to do X, Y, or Z. Now, whether they do it or not is another thing. But a very interesting question would be to ask a British politician, does the UK government have any influence over Israel? And what influence do you have? Because if you were to say, well, we have no influence, then what is the point in even talking about this? What is the point of talking about ceasefires, talking about pulling back, restraint, anything like this? Because if you have no influence, then it's all a bit pointless. And there's no point complaining about Hamas either, because you have no influence over them anyway. We would hope that the EU, the US, the UK would have some sort of influence, and they could use that to make sure that Israel operates within international law. But the fact here, back to this point here, the fact that you have a Tory minister appearing to threaten a journalist and threaten a news agency is pretty strange and a bit worrying. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.